But first, world leaders are wrapping up the United Nations General Assembly on Monday. On Saturday, South Sudan's first Vice President, Taban Dengai's speech to the world body outlined the accomplishments by his country's President Salva Kiir, detailing the path the government is taking regarding the long-awaited implementation of the revitalized peace agreement. And on Saturday, neighboring Sudan's Foreign Minister Al-Dildiri Mohamed Ahmed told VOA that Khartoum has started a peace process in South Sudan, which he says was subject to continuous conversation between the two neighbors and the United States. Now, for more on the UNGA, VOA UN correspondent Margaret Bashir joins me live from New York. Margaret, the world leaders have spoken extensively this week and the past week. We also heard from Africa's youngest nation on Saturday.
Yes, Esther, we're wrapping up the annual debate today. Just a few more speeches left. We heard, as you mentioned, from South Sudan's first vice president on Saturday. He said the country is moving towards a stable peace. And he pointed to the permanent ceasefire that's been agreed. He pointed to the revitalized peace agreement, and he said, and the national dialogue. And he said all of these things complement one another and are putting the country on the right path. Now, he acknowledged that there's regional and international skepticism because since South Sudan fell into internal conflict in 2013, we've sort of been here before. And, you know, no sooner has the ink been dry on some of these agreements that the fighting has resumed. So he acknowledged that, and he said that there's been a change in leaders' attitudes in South Sudan and that they're moving away from entrenched positions towards reconciliation and a unity government. So he, hopefully things will move in the right direction. And we heard today from the Foreign Minister of Sudan, Diri Ahmed. And he also spoke about relations with South Sudan, and he said that Sudan did not willingly let South Sudan go. I think perhaps a bit of an understatement. But he said that they're committed to making sure that since they've been through all of this, that it will be a stable, peaceful country. And he called for an expansion of the Regional Protection Force in South Sudan from 4,000 to 8,000 troops to maintain the ceasefire.
Very interesting, Margaret. You know, the world is watching to see if that peace agreement will hold. But overall, Margaret, you've followed the whole UN General Assembly discussions. What would you say were the key aspects?
Well, I think the big headlines this week were notably about North Korea, about the progress of the denuclearization talks between North Korea and the United States, and with intra-Korean relations between North and South Korea. That was one of the major headlines here. And also on Iran, we heard from President Trump kind of more of the same, but it was an overarching theme of his visit here that he believes the government in Iran is corrupt and a sponsor of terror, and he is very pleased he withdrew from the nuclear deal. So we heard a lot about that again. But I think one of the most important things we heard from him was a repudiation of the International Criminal Court, and that could have ramifications in Africa. This major lack of support from the United States for the court. The U.S. was not a signatory to it, but it had never taken such a hardline position against the court as Mr. Trump did on Tuesday.
Margaret, we're running out of time, but we'll catch up again soon as the world leaders wrap up this UNGA 2018. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Esther.